This week on Money Matters, fierce competition for new in-city duty-free licenses comes to an end with major operators poised to magnify profits in the booming industry. Hungry for chicken, Koreans have developed an insatiable appetite for chicken in all flavors and forms. The soaring popularity knows no end. And to pep up the country's tourism industry, which took a pounding from the recent MERS outbreak, more efforts are made to encourage vacationing within the country. What stories matter in Asia? We'll look at the changing landscape of business in Korea and the rest of Asia on Money Matters. Hello everyone, I'm Na Hyun-kyung. Thanks for joining us this week. Before we begin, let's check out the top business headlines across Asia. A historic nuclear deal between Iran and 6 major world powers has been creating a lot of excitement for businesses around the world as they look to re-enter the second largest market in the Middle East. Korean construction companies are no exception as they hope to see another boom in the region. Automobiles, steel, and distribution sectors are also forecast to experience a bump in exports. However, things are not rosy for Korea's petrochemical firms. Tehran's oil minister has said the country can pump out 1 million barrels of crude oil a day for exports after sanctions are lifted, which would drive down the oil prices and related products. For the first time in 6 years, China has revealed just how much gold it holds, with data showing it's been the second biggest buyer of the metal during that time. This puts the country in 5th place with roughly 1,660 metric tons in stock. The figures from the People's Bank of China indicate Beijing is moving to diversify its foreign exchange reserves with the purchase of bullion. The country has been buying more gold even as prices hit a 5-year low. Investors are turning their backs on gold due to expectations that the U.S. Federal Reserve will carry out a rate hike later in the year. A green light from shareholders last week cleared hurdles for a merger between 2 Samsung affiliates, JL Industries and Samsung C&T. The new unit emerging from the all-stock takeover deal will take the brand of the construction arm, Samsung C&T. It unveiled its vision for the next 5 years, saying it aims to achieve sales of more than $52 billion, up more than 10% from now. The company said it will make stronger inroads into the bioindustry sector and secure a place at the top of the global fashion and leisure sectors. Korea's big businesses are expected to see a cutback in tax benefits as the government looks to secure more funds in its coffer. Seoul is looking to reduce tax deductions for the added sum of investment in research and development projects while taking away previous exemptions that lifted corporate tax burdens on firms that has seen greater losses before turning profits. Such measures would rake in more taxes from large companies even without pushing up the corporate tax rate. The country is scheduled to announce tax revisions at the beginning of August. Companies are concerned such reforms could challenge their competitiveness in the mid to long term. Uncertainties stemming from China and Greece have been sending many of Korea's stocks down south, but one sector that has enjoyed a recent spike is the country's duty-free market. 4 new in-city licenses were recently awarded, pushing companies into fierce competition, and the race to grab foreign tourists is not limited to Korea. Take a look.
Earlier this month, Korea's Customs Office granted new in-city duty-free licenses for the first time in 15 years. As of now, there are 42 duty-free stores in Korea. 5 are in Jeju, designated for local consumers, 17 are located in downtown areas, and 20 are spread across different air and seaports. And now with the go-ahead for 3 more stores in Seoul and 1 in Jeju, Korea's duty-free market is forecast to expand further. The local duty-free market has grown exponentially since 2010 and surpassed the $6.5 billion mark last year. More than half of this figure comes from shops in downtown areas, which have overtaken airport retailers in revenue. Korean operators have significant presence in global rankings. In 2013, Lotte Duty Free ranked 4th in the world in terms of annual sales at $3.3 billion, while the Shilla Duty Free came in 7th at $1.9 billion. Changing shopping habits, especially among younger consumers, is a promising factor for Korea's duty-free industry. Because prices are cheaper than at department stores and there are no language barriers, Koreans are increasingly turning to local tax-free chains to do their shopping. But the influx of foreign visitors is the single biggest reason behind the growth in the industry. Overseas travelers are said to be impressed with a wide range of products and competitive pricing at Korean duty-free stores.
我觉得韩国的这个免税店蛮好的，又大而且又实惠，以后希望还会来再买些东西。
Compared to other countries, I think they got a good choice and variety. Yeah.
More than 70% of Korea's duty-free customers are foreign visitors. This is why sales here have the same effect as exporting goods out of the country. Of the 14 million visitors that came to Korea last year, the biggest spenders were Chinese, who on average splurged $3,000 during their stay. It's no surprise neighboring Asian countries are in fierce competition to up their game in the duty-free industry and go after more Chinese consumers.
With 5 years left until the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, Japan is making an all-out effort to beef up its duty-free experience.
全国津々浦々に観光客を呼び込むために、今後政府一丸となって強力に施策を推進をしてまいります。
Last October, the Japanese government greatly widened the scope of its tax exemption system, allowing convenience stores, pharmacies, and other small shops to provide tax-free services as well. This will not only make it more convenient for tourists, but also help enliven the local economy.
지금까지는 중국이나 일본, 다른 기타, 대만 포함해서 큰 관심이 없었는데 최근에 이제 일본의 경우에도 자기들 경제가 안 좋고 그러다 보니까 더군다나 최근에 엔화가 이제 대폭 약세가 되다 보니까 관광 사업이 대단히 큰 자기들 일종의 그 소득 창출 요인을 생각을 했습니다. 우리와 마찬가지로 이런 그 유명 브랜드 제품을 중심으로 해서 면세 사업이 되게 중요해졌고 면세점 사업도 하나의 아이템으로 좀 치열하게 글로벌 경쟁이 시작되었다 이렇게 볼 수 있을 것 같습니다.
China is determined to stem the outflow of foreign currency. Last year, it opened the world's largest duty-free store in Hainan Island. By extending tax exemption eligibility to local residents, the country is trying to get its citizens to spend on home turf. With such fierce competition, there are greater hopes that the new duty-free licenses in Korea will help strengthen the country's leading position in the region and create more jobs.
한강과 여의도에 잠재된 관광 인프라를 개발하고 선진국형 신개념 관광 문화를 선도하겠습니다.
HDC Shilla, another new licensee, has ambitious plans to create the world's largest urban duty-free store, one that will rival Hainan CDF.
세계 최대 도시명 면세점을 만들어서 그 글로벌 경쟁력을 바탕으로 해서 더 많은 해외 관광객을 한국으로 오게끔 해서.
Meanwhile, questions linger as to whether big businesses benefited unfairly in the recent bid. Experts stress that conglomerates and small and medium-sized companies need to grow together in order for the local duty-free business to thrive against international competition.
이 면세점에 찾아오는 그런 수많은 관광객 대상으로 우리 국내에 있는 그 가능성 있는 제품들을 발굴을 해서 그걸 하나의 브랜드화해서 면세점에서 같이 팔아주고 그러면 우리 중소기업 제품들의 글로벌 브랜드로 숙성할 수 있는, 성장할 수 있는 그런 또 계기가 될 것이다. 좀 더 균형된 어떤 우리 관광산업의 발전, 또 지역 경제의 발전, 또는 대기업과 중소기업의 상생 발전, 이런 것을 위한 하나의 모멘텀으로 좀 삼아야 될 것이다. 그렇게 생각을 합니다.
The duty-free market is regarded as one of the major driving engines behind Korea's retail and tourism industry. Just how much more it can grow on the back of heavy corporate investment and government support remains to be seen.
Korea has seen a shift in eating habits, especially over the last 3 decades. Rice consumption has halved since the 1980s, while meat consumption has nearly quadrupled since then. Beef, pork, and chicken have all seen significant growth in terms of consumption. and our poultry friends have become especially popular during recent years. So just how much chicken do Koreans consume? Well, on today's In Numbers, we'll take a look at Korea's chicken market and maybe why chicken consumption has skyrocketed here in Korea. Now, some say this shift in eating trends is due to the more prevalent Western eating habits, which are heavier in protein and lighter in carbs, more conventional in Western countries. Regardless, it's clear that meat is becoming a regular member of the dinner table here in Korea. In fact, according to the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, the per capita consumption of meat came to 42.7 kilograms in 2013, compared to 11.3 kilograms in 1980. And looking more specifically at chicken, in 2000, the annual chicken consumption per person stood at 6.9 kilograms. But last year, that number nearly doubled and was recorded at 12.45 kilograms, which equates to roughly 15 birds per person. Now, chicken has become a more popular choice both when cooking at home, but also when going out. And of course, one of the most popular forms of chicken here in Korea when eating out is fried chicken. Chicken and beer, also known as chimek, has become one of the nation's favorite pastimes, with an estimated 43,000 chicken joints found across the country. And here in Seoul, there's an average 8.5 joints within a 1-kilometer radius. That's a chicken joint around just about every corner of the city, which might explain the country's soaring consumption of chicken. But it wasn't always this way. Taking a look at Korea's chicken market, in 2005 it was worth $525 million. But in 2013, that very same market was worth roughly $4.4 billion. That's over 8 times in growth in just 8 years. So whether fried, grilled, or baked, one thing is for sure, and that's Koreans do like their chicken. Well, that wraps up today's In Numbers. I'll be sure to keep my eyes on any new trends and developments coming your way.
Trends in business evolve rapidly by the day, and here with the most eye-catching stories is Misorang. Welcome to the program, Misorang. What do you have for us today?
Well, two of the biggest issues shaking up the world economy right now is the Chinese stock market rout and the Greek debt crisis. And our first two topics are related to this. First, China. A number of deep-pocketed investors are pulling out of the fickle stock market at home and are instead parking their cash in overseas real estate. A lot of it is going to high-end property markets in Australia and Canada, which are considered safe havens with a weakening currency. But for China's small-time investors that saw their life savings vaporize, times are particularly tough, and bitter jokes about failed stock investments are trending online. An example is a song urging people not to give up just yet, because share prices may rise tomorrow. Things are not much better in Greece. Part of its most recent bailout requires the country to privatize a chunk of its public portfolio. Items up for grabs include infrastructure, such as a 30% share in Athens International Airport and a 90% stake in Hellenic Post, which is the country's main postal service provider. Then there are several landmarks as well, such as 3 venues from the Athens 2004 Olympic Games and the Peace and Friendship Stadium, where the likes of Gloria Estefan and Phil Collins had held their concerts.
And if I remember correctly, it's not the first time Greece is trying to sell a state property.
That's right. Since the Papandreou administration in 2011, they've sold $8.8 billion worth, but progress has been slow with payment on over half of these, so sales are yet to be finalized. Now, the country needs to raise $55 billion through this latest round of privatization, which is equivalent to a fifth of its GDP, and a number many consider is simply unrealistic.
All right, moving on to our next story. I see you brought something again to the studio for us.
Yes, I did. Now, these are snacks to share with you. Now, on the outside, they look pretty similar to ordinary cookies or energy bars, but ingredient-wise, they're similar to the food bars from film Snowpiercer.
Are you telling me they're made from bugs?
That's right. Ingredient-wise, by dry weight, they're 10% bugs.
Huh.
Now, many countries are pushing insects as the wonder food of the future because A, they're nutritious, and B, have astonishing feed conversion rates, meaning less environmental impact and higher cost efficiency. And Korea is no exception. Its Rural Development Administration recently unveiled more than 100 food items that incorporate edible bugs, such as pizza topped off with dried lava, and banana shakes fortified with a shot of ground-up mealworm. With the diversification of insect-based meals, the edible bug industry in Korea is expected to reach $250 million by the end of this year. And Korea's bingsu, or shaved ice dessert market, is still going strong, driven by seemingly insatiable appetite for the quintessential summer treat. The market has exploded in recent years with a slew of bingsu cafe franchises, such as Seobing and Ongnumong, opening up nationwide and even spilling over into neighboring countries. What used to come in just 2 flavors, red bean and fruit, has evolved into a $130 million industry by spinning off more than a dozen flavors and styles, including take-out versions served in plastic cups and pre-packaged portions sold at convenience stores.
That's a pretty big market. Usually bingsus are quite inexpensive, but I've heard some luxury hotels actually sell them for up to $80.
That's right. As the popularity for bingsu becomes wider across more people, companies and restaurants are continually coming up with more varieties to appeal to every taste and pocket.
All right, thank you, Ms. Urang, for coming in and sharing your interesting stories with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, this week kicks off the peak of summer vacation season in Korea. A lot of Koreans make a mass exodus for their holidays, while foreign tourists spill into the country during this period. But this summer, Korea might see a change of scenery. Our Im Yoon-hee is here to tell us more. Very good to see you again, Yoon-hee.
Good to see you too. So you're absolutely right. Korea's tourism industry was hit hard with the recent MERS outbreak. But to make sure these effects do not linger on, the government has taken on measures, one of which is the Vacation in Korea project. They've recently put that into place. So let's take a closer look at what this is all about in this next report.
혹시 요즘에 메르스 때문에 사람들 많이 줄었어요?
네, 엄청 많이 줄었어요. 명동에 원래 관광객들이 되게 많았는데 관광객이 확 줄어들면서 매상도 완전 안 좋아지고
거의 매출이 한 80% 정도는 줄은 것 같아요. 관광객 매출이.
On June 18th, Money Matters reported on the MERS outbreak and the toll it had started to take on the Korean economy. Due to the fears of the coronavirus, many foreign tourists canceled their trips, and we witnessed just how badly this all hit the tourism industry.
Now, the refreshing waters of these rivers and streams are usually cram-packed with people looking to cool off from the summer heat. You'll see a similar situation at both the beaches and the mountains, as Korea's vacation spots have seen a sharp decline in visitors compared to last year. But is there a way to reinvigorate a struggling Korean tourism industry? Well, many businesses are introducing new activities and benefits in hopes of breathing new life into an area badly affected by the MERS outbreak.
Korean government officials and office workers are taking part in a mass campaign to encourage people to vacation within the country. Small and medium-sized firms have set up peak vacation dates and are nudging workers to use their holidays during that time.
이번 휴가는 우리 국내 여행을 돌아다니면서 그래도 다 같이 어려운 상황이지만 함께 나눌 수 있는 그런 휴가를 보내고자 싶어서 국내 여행으로 잡아보도록 했습니다.
The Federation for Korean Industries and the Korea Chamber of Commerce and Industry have also jumped in on this train, launching public movements to spend the summer in the country.
이 대한상인 같은 경우에도 15만 회원사가 있고 나머지 정경련이라든가 중기중앙회라든가 회원사가 꽤 많이 있습니다. 그래서 그 동시다발적으로 그 국내에서 여름 휴가 보내기 운동을 하면 내수 진작에 도움이 되겠다 싶었습니다.
It's not only about drawing in local travelers, but foreign tourists as well. Local governments have been stepping up efforts to reassure people that Korea is safe to travel, while touting the country's beauty through different events.
해외는 벌써 강원도만 해도 12만 명 정도가 예약을 취소한 상태입니다. 그래서 저희가 이걸 회복하기 위해서 해외 언론사들을 많이 초청해서 메르스가 그렇게 무서운 것도 아니고 끝났다 이것을 보여주고, 그리고 이어서 저희들이 중국과 일본, 동남아를 직접 나가서 여러 가지 단타라든가 이런 공연들과 함께 나가서 마케팅을 적극적으로 할 생각을 가지고 있습니다.
In the case of Gangwon-do province, it has invited China's news and travel production teams to come and film in the region. These crews have visited the area to capture some of its scenic spots, which will broadcast later as travel segments in China.
因为这个中东的一个疫情嘛，导致了这个韩国的可能我们去韩国游的这样的欲望会降低了很多。但是我来了这边以后，我发现完全不是那个样子。按我的设想呢，以我的片子的制作的方式呢，我可能会用出镜的方式去体验这段旅程到底是什么样子的。那这个在我的制作成片制作好以后呢，我们会在我们的电视台的黄金时间段会进行一个推广。
Exactly how important is it to secure more local tourists within the country? According to estimates from the Federation of Korean Industries, if 10% of Koreans who are looking to travel abroad turn their eyes to domestic vacation spots, it can boost domestic demand by over $4 billion annually. By giving the local economy a boost, this can in turn lead to nearly 55,000 new jobs. A holiday in Korea means so much more to the economy. Korea's tourism minister recently met with his Chinese counterpart for the first time since the MERS outbreak. In this meeting, Seoul decided to dispatch a delegation of 500 from the government and private sector to Beijing for cultural exchanges.
8월 중에 예년 수준의 한 80% 정도는 회복할 것 같다라는 거. 10월 정도면은 충분히 예년 수준으로 다시 회복할 수 있을 거라고 저희는.
Some of Korea's iconic landmarks will also open their doors to foreign and local tourists free of charge during the summer holidays, as the country looks for a multitude of ways to breathe new life into the tourism industry.
Of course, it is important to get money circulating, and many hope this project will get that going, at least within the tourism industry. What are some other methods that have been introduced to attract foreign visitors?
Exactly. So, well, up through September 30th, there will be a visa fee exemption for those coming from 5 countries, and that includes China, Vietnam, and the Philippines. Now, this is expected to cause a loss of $7 to $7.8 million for the country, but for the government, they've decided to push forward with that to give the tourism industry a lift. Now, this also includes Chinese tourists visiting Japan. They will also be able to come to Korea without a visa for up to 15 days. Now, the Korean embassy also in China has vowed to pay for any medical costs if a Chinese tourist visiting Korea contracts the MERS virus. Now, this is a very good indication of the country's confidence that it has contained the virus.
Right, but wouldn't we need more long-term measures to keep this momentum going?
Exactly. So local governments are also thinking about the long-term plan. They're thinking about the summer vacation, but also they're also trying to attract tourists in the future, in particular, the National Day of the People's Republic of China and the long weekend that follows with that as well, all of which takes place in the beginning of October. Also, this next month marks the start of the Korean Grand Sale, which is expected to give a much-needed boost to the retail sector as well.
All right. Thank you very much, Uni, for coming in and sharing your report with us today.
You're very welcome.
And that's all we have on Money Matters. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll bring you plenty of stories as they unfold in Asia and give you a view of the changing landscape of business in the region. I'm Na Hyun-kyung. Thanks for watching.